What's up, and welcome to another episode of Upland Stories. Today for you, we have MossiJake, the one and only. Thanks so much for being here, my man.
Thanks, Doyle. I haven't seen you since Vegas. How's it been?
Dude, it's going pretty good. Started this new kind of series called Upland Stories, and this is the third episode. Technically, we did one like months ago with Uplando, but kind of this new series is really getting deeper with players who've been really successful or are doing unique things in the metaverse. And something that's always stood out to me about you, MossiJake, is like how much you are like networking to grow in the metaverse, and
Oh
like you
yeah.
spend a lot of time. For those of you who don't know, in the official Upland Discord, there is the Upland Cafe. MossiJake spends hours in there every week
Yep.
and talks to people, talks to a lot of new players. So he's always networking. Mossy, what kind of drives you to be so involved that way and spend so much time just networking with people?
Yeah, that's a great question. Being a human, we definitely want to be around people. Getting stuck with COVID and stuck between these four walls became very lonely. We have the dog that we can hang out with, and my wife's at work for 8 hours in the day. And to be able to go to a space that we could talk about something we had in common, which was this love for Upland, really just instantly hit me like this is the place I want to be. And it wasn't many weeks after I started joining the cafe that I stayed there every day. Um, yeah, now for I don't even know, almost 12 months, maybe about 10 months I've been in there.
Dang.
Yeah,
So does your wife play as well? I'm
you know,
curious.
she doesn't. No, at
Okay.
first I was like, she doesn't really know about it. I play my own iPhone app games, Clash of Clans, World of Warcraft, Fortnite, stuff like that. And at first there was a point where I was like, I want to show her this. We could both be, wheeling and dealing and stuff. And it got to a point where I was like, I don't really want to show her this game yet.
This is
Cause,
my thing, right?
yeah,
This is my hobby.
yeah, it was mine, and it was nice. I could tell her what the conversion rate was for UPX, so that maybe the account didn't look as big as it was. And then, and no, yeah. So she doesn't play, but she now knows fully kind of what it is and understands it completely. I got to go to Vegas, and she's here pregnant with our first little one, so that was tough to leave. But she's a great support for me and my endeavor here.
Dude, congrats on the baby, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's huge news. It's our first little baby girl, and I'm pumped. We're kind of cleaning up the house, getting ready. We're gonna do some painting later today after this call. So there's still tons to do, but we're doing January. We got time.
That's awesome, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome. But you're still dedicating a lot of time to Upland. Do you work full time like 9 to 5 job as
I
well?
do. Yeah, I work at full time 9 to 5 as well. So I'm very, very busy. I try to say that time is my worst enemy and the
Mm.
common denominator of every problem that I have. It used to be money, and now I'm realizing it's not money that's the problem; it's time. So
Yeah, dude,
I'm
I get it.
utilizing as much as I can. If I got 5 months left or so, I'm gonna go as best as I can, right up to the dot, and then I'm gonna learn how to juggle a couple more things in life. But I'm already juggling a handful of things as it is, so add on something else. We'll see how it goes, but I'm pretty sure I'll do fine.
Dude, good for you, man. I'm curious. So you said you've been in Upland about a year at this point. How did you first hear about it, and what was like intriguing to you in the first place?
Yeah, I joined back in March 2021. So I had my first year a couple months ago, and it was intriguing. I got introduced to it. Let's start from the beginning. Really, was a best friend of mine that we play frisbee with here, frisbee golf, was like, "Hey, Moss, I know you really like this game that we play together, Fortnite, and you're really competitive, and we'll find like the best ways to do something and be a great in-game leader. Take a look at this other game." So because he kind of knew the way I have play styles and stuff like that, he showed me Upland, and at first I was like, this is really sweet. There's so much to it, but I wasn't a part of any community, and the account was moving really slow because I was waiting for divvies with just the one play style that I had in mind. And so after he showed me this game, uh, it was about 2 months into it, and then I found the Discord, I think so, and it just changed everything. It went from just this platform game that you can play to now this whole community that is around it. And as a gamer growing up, I totally understand what communities are, and I understand how people can fall in love with something and 20 years later it'll still be a thing. Pokemon and World of Warcraft or Magic the Gathering, things like that. And so I was like, okay, so we have collectors items, we have gamification, we have people coming together, we have blockchain technology, which was new and emerging, and it just fit right for me. As a techie, as a competitive person, and a leader, I was like, this game feels right. And I remember
Yeah.
waking up sometimes just being like, how did this happen? How did the gears click for it? But I'm here. And that was leading up to summer last year. And that was before any type of development and before any type of that. I knew that this place was the one. I think it was connecting the community with the game itself, um,
Yeah.
which is huge, which is part of the networking. I mean, getting on the
Yep.
Discord, getting on the Telegrams, the Reddits, the Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. And just kind of like communicating. If you see someone that's doing a build that you don't know how to do, don't feel like you can't speak out and say, hey, what are you doing here? And why are you building it backwards? And then you get a crazy response that you might have never thought of. Like, I'm building it backwards so that when the racetrack goes by, I can sit on the balcony and look out instead of standing at the front door. And it just like pops your head. You go, oh, and you realize connecting with somebody else will just completely change your experience.
Exactly. Dude, I love that. I love that example too. Some people are really, and the more we talk, and that's one of the reasons I love this podcast like style, is like we're getting deeper with like, man, some people are really thinking so deeply and so futuristic about this game. And you mentioned gaming as a background, and I'm very similar. I have more of a gaming background than like a crypto background. And Upland, I think, has attracted both parties, like some with very extreme just gaming, mobile game backgrounds, and even just regular, PC games. But then you have a large group of people that are NFT fans, like people in NBA Top Shot, things like that, coming into the game and approaching it more from this like crypto strategy. And it's interesting to me because I've seen a lot of people with gaming backgrounds
Okay.
really like flourish in this environment
Yeah.
of Upland. And so how do you feel that gamers have somewhat of an edge in the game of Upland?
Yeah. Well, one of the big tells instantly would be treasure hunting, right? So one of the best ways to gather your spark is to get it for free by treasure hunting and doing the grind. Um, Payouts are about 5% of every hunt that you do. You have a small chance of receiving a spark chest. So when you think of gamification that way, coming in from Fortnite, where a player is really moving quick and their decision making skills are at a split second, that person can make decisions a lot faster, maybe than someone who can analytically look at a chart and a graph and analyze it overnight and say, this is what I project to happen. So when you put the two together, I think the gamer people here will succeed almost more than the analytic folk, just because of that one tick, that the decision split making skill that they have. It could also be a downfall, as we make decisions instantly without thinking, but at the same time we do recoup, and that's where connecting with the Discord and other folk that has that brain of the market analytics. I came from the gamer background too, and to start looking at these cities as maybe a chart or a graph or something like that was so foreign to me, and I didn't even understand the concept to start. And with talking with someone, they just said, well, Moss, look at it this way. And so I look at it and I go, oh, okay. And now that I have their perspective on it and my perspective on it, I can now learn those split second decision making skills while using that information as well that I didn't know. So over time, you start snowballing this brain power in a way of just like what is should do, what you can do, what might not be best, and deciding instantly. So yeah.
Dude,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, and gamers in general also, they're this different class, right? So as a gamer, we grew up in a way where it's not sports, it's not acting, it's not curricular. It's just something completely new and different, utilizing technology to display something given a user input. And now we are 20, 40 years later, 1982, 1981, we had the first Pac-Man cabinet
Yep.
tabletop machines. And that was years before my time, not too long. But to evolve from there to where we are today, there's almost not like a stigma really, but like this weird feeling of, hey, I want to be a gamer full time, or
Yeah.
I want to develop games and stuff like that. But there's now this seed that's been planting in those children's minds that now are growing up who are taking advantage of that and saying, you know, I loved playing Halo 2 back in the day, and I could race headlong with, you know, warthogs all day. Now that I'm an adult, let's experience that again. And yeah, gamers have just creative, crazy, imaginative minds.
Dude, Halo 2.
Yeah,
Mentioning Halo 2, man.
that's
Master Chief's my block explorer, dude.
that's right. Yeah,
Halo
you
is
do have the
like
chief.
Halo is what got me into gaming, especially competitive gaming. And dude, that's just what you're talking about right there. I think gamers have this competitive edge about them. Like it's like you said, some people like to compete in sports. Gamers, like there can be a negative stigma in society on people who spend a lot of time gaming. However, I think there are some aspects that are really good, like being able to compete. Like I have a very just I think my family dynamic alone is a very like competitive. Like we go golfing together, my dad and his three sons, and it's like competition. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
hey,
deep
that was a
rooted.
stroke, man. You got to count that. You know, like it's like not we're not giving each other anything. Uh, and so I love being able to compete in games, like especially online games where you know everyone you're competing against is a real player, like Fortnite you mentioned. And when you get a win in that, you're like, dude, I just beat 100 other humans just like me, except for when they added a ton of bots, right?
Yeah, but that was
But
also kind of fun.
yeah, because that I think that I think elevates the player as well. So there's balances there. But when you're competing against people, even Fall Guys. Have you played Fall Guys? Just like a chill arcade game.
Yep.
Like it's so fun to get a win and like, man, I just beat 60 people there. Another thing that sticks out to me about having a gaming background, I'm not sure how much you've played like strategy games or like long-term games. Like I think like Animal Crossing. I think
Yep.
like
Done it.
uh, yeah, Animal Crossing really stands out because there's this strategy of like min-maxing your time spent
Mm,
in the game. That's
yeah.
something that gamers have as well. Of like, how do I make sure every second I put into this game is the most maximized for me to get the most out of it? Like you think like Minecraft, a more advanced game of like Minecraft is like Ark Survival Evolved. I'm not sure if you heard of that one, but it's
I've
like
heard of it, but I haven't touched it.
dinosaurs, like really aggressive, like like a T-Rex could come in and destroy a base you worked on for like literally weeks, and it
Oh,
could just
sweet.
destroy the whole thing. And gamers have this like min-maxing attitude of like, how do I maximize every second in this game? And I think you've taken that approach with things like treasure hunting, where you really like a lot of the top tier treasure hunters in Upland I've seen like attribute a lot of their success to like speaking with you and
Oh
taking
yeah.
some of your strategies. So like that's really cool. You mentioned 5% of the time when you do a treasure hunt you can get a chest. So like is that something you use heavily in your strategy of like I can win Spark? Like do you dedicate a certain amount of hours every week, or are you too busy? Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Treasure hunting is massive, and I think the one of the big overhauls and boundaries that we had to step over was players just didn't know how to treasure hunt, and they didn't know how to treasure hunt good. And I remember sitting there looking at my partners in the cafe, being like, "Well, I do this easily. You know, I taught myself. I went through the grind. Um, let me help you." Because it's the worst thing to do is look around and being like, how come I'm the only one bragging about having Spark? This is not fun. So you look around, you say, hey, let me help you. Let me show you ways that you can learn. Let me show you ways that you can learn. And then now your buddies next to you, left and right, these guys and girls are now learning how to do what you do. And it, in a way, elevates everyone together. You know, all high tides raise all ships,
Yep.
as long as you put your hand out. And
I'm
so with treasure hunting specifically, the 5% thing is something I do take into account. So right now, if I'm not doing my grind during the day, trying to get all maximum sends in, I'll always do one at night. So right before bed, my thing is, all right, Mossi, you know that there's going to be a treasure 5% of the time. Do one at night. And that means, after 20 nights, I should have hit one spark chest. So every month, I'm telling you, there's one night during the month that I go to bed and it was a spark chest. And it is the
wow.
most amazing feeling.
And you
because
just do one, like,
just
right?
one,
It's like a
right
ritual,
before
just
bed.
one treasure hunt.
Yeah. So I started
And
with just doing
it's
one.
the free chest you spawn as well, which is cool, right?
Yep.
So you don't even have to pay for it.
Yep. Yeah. And so it's just this huge advantage to say, okay, 5% I can deal with it. Most of the time I'm not going to get it, but after a certain amount of time, my odds could be in my favor where I'm lucky enough to score it. And so, yeah, just doing one a night, I think, is super beneficial, because you get that kick when you do get it. You're going, dang, that was sweet. You rest easy. You wake up fresh the next day, like you're the king of the world.
And doing that as well, you're also going to be getting the 7-day login. Like if you're just logging in every day, you're getting the free Spark you can get every 7 days. So having that ritual as well is making
it's
sure
perfect.
you're always getting that.
Yeah, I'd set an iPhone alarm at 8 p.m. And when I get the alarm off, I go, okay, hey, I'm spending 5 minutes doing this right now. I'm not watching the show. I'm not going to press play on the next YouTube. I'm just going to focus for 5 minutes. Get the daily login and get that one hunt in or so. And that's a huge strategy that is baseline, but everyone should know. And so if you hear someone that doesn't maybe know that, tell them, hey, a great way to do this and start making Spark in your wallet would be get that one hunt in and log in just once a day. So, even the smallest player can start contributing to the economy by gathering their Spark and using it to build the metaverse.
So there's lots of players out there who are actually maxing out their sends every day, like getting, like speaking of min-maxing, there's a certain amount of sends you can send every day, right? And does that change depending on the city? I've heard talks of that, but I've never been so into treasure hunting that I've needed to know that information. Can you explain a little more about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So right now there's a tiering system for treasures, which means every city there is an Upland. There's also a different tier called the treasure hunting tier. And so when you're at the tier 1 city, we have 4 of them. We have Manhattan, Chicago, San Francisco, and Los Angeles.
Okay.
When you're there, you get to spend 80 cents, and treasures are higher paying out than the bottom tiers. So we have 5
does this 80 cents, does this count if it's sending to your own property as well?
It does not. So when you send to your own property, you're not wasting any of your airplanes. So that's also very huge in the tactic of treasure hunting. And we could dive into that real quick too. The concept of 80 cents and maximizing is huge. So when we have tier 1 and tier 2 who are sharing right now 80 cents, whereas the bottom tiers are only sharing 40 cents. And what I mean by this is, if I was in a tier 2 city, Santa Clara, and I was treasure hunting, every time I send to somebody else's property, oh, here's a loyal doyle prop, and I send to it, I have to give up one of my airplanes and give you some UPX.
Yep.
It's the way how we travel around the game. And so when a treasure hunter is saying I've maxed my sends for the day, that means they're only allowed to pick up 80 airplanes. And it's not 80 individual airplanes, but it's a accumulation of those numbers. So when you click one airplane, it says you got 3.
Sometimes
tally
you
up.
get
So
6. I've had up to 6, or sometimes
that's
you only
huge.
get 1.
That's the best feeling when you hit it and you're like, yes, a 6 or an 8.
So you can only accumulate. So you start with like 11 for the day if you have max.
Yep.
So technically, can you get 91 in a tier 1 city for the day, or is it?
Exactly. And there's some fun things about that too. So yeah, so the maxing out, you're sending to these properties, getting as much treasures as you can in a single day. And if you have the 11 on top of your 80, that's 91. And then there's also some cases where users save and start banking their sends from tours. So in Upland, we have tours. We go to a city and they say, hey, for your travel, we're going to give you 10 or 15 sends that you can use around and try to go hunt and have fun with the scavenger hunt we've given you.
Sometimes don't you get even more, like 30 sends from a certain tour?
Yeah, last summer when we did the 5 tours, we went back and redid all 5 tours. It was like 30 per. And I remember some players having like 100 cents in their bank. And I'm looking around as a treasure hunter like, man, I get 11 until I have to go collect more. That looks awesome. And there's strategy to it.
So for those of you who may not know, these tours are, for example, like they did a Memorial Day tour or something like that, where they do them on holidays a lot, where there's an event and it's like going around the city to see different buildings that have significance. And then, but I imagine a lot of treasure hunters are paying like the 2,000 UPX or whatever to enter the tour, and they're intentionally not even doing the tour, right? Because
correct. Yeah, and
they just want the extra cents for treasure hunting.
yep, you'll pay 2,000 UPX to get just the cents, and they won't even fly to San Francisco to do the tour.
That's right, because if you click the globe button when you go to what's the is it treasures? You do
Yep,
the
the
treasures
treasures
button
tab
to go
button.
to enter a tour. You can be in Santa Clara, and there could be a tour going on in Rutherford, and you can click the globe button still in Santa Clara, enter the tour in Rutherford, and stay in Santa Clara to just keep hunting the next day, and
Yeah.
you have 30 cents or whatever.
Yep. And when you're talking 5% of chances you're going to get Spark, if you have 80 cents, 5%, that's going to be 4 Spark chests. So this is really fun where if you add those extra cents that you can, you're kind of increasing your, the potential that you could have that day. And when we're trying to maximize your time, you want to look back and be like, all right, I did the best I could and I gathered as much as I could. I stopped treasure hunting full time in February when we came out with the UPX Spark Exchange. I had to put my treasure hunting on hold. I was hunting every day, maxing out, making sure I could utilize it. And I gathered all the way up to 20 Spark. And I just said, this is really good. 20 Spark is
So
really
20
good.
Spark, my friend.
It's unreal. Treasure
Jeez.
hunting just at night, talking with the people in the cafe about Upland, sending myself around. I got to learn the cities, floor prices, what markups were all about, building a web and then not needing a web and traveling to different cities to utilize if someone wasn't there or on cooldown. And I haven't done it since Feb. So now I'm at 20 Spark. I don't have to hunt as much anymore. But if I look back now in the last 8 months since I stopped hunting, I look at some of these other treasure hunters that joined, learned how to hunt, and now they have 20 Spark. And so when you look at it, if I continue,
these are people who haven't. I'm curious. Have you invested any money in purchasing any Spark to get to 20, or is that like all treasure hunting?
I did, yeah. So there was a point when I realized Spark was just this you can't go away concept of I own it and I get to do with it as I want, not UPX where when I release it, it's gone forever. It comes back to me, and that just blew my mind. There wasn't another game that I cared about at all that did that. And so, yeah, I've probably bought 2.5 Spark. So really not that much out of the 20 at all.
So how much? So that's like a couple $100.
Yeah,
worth.
$1,000 worth.
I think I've invested probably $3,000 in at least.
Yeah.
In just purchasing Spark, because like I have that same long-term vision with it. But it is nice when you win, like knowing you can win it is. But it truly is an investment. Like. I'm curious, have you tried to check like if you are insanely good at treasure hunting, like what the time value of your investment is if you're like maxing out every day? Has anyone tried to run those numbers of like, man, I can technically earn like $15 an hour of Spark if I get really good at this?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
There was definitely numbers in my head at the time. It's been months since I've had the spreadsheet in front of me of like when and what was the best time for me to go hunting because of scheduling, that I don't have to jam it in anymore. But there's some folk right now pulling nearly half a Spark each week. Just standard treasure hunting.
So
230.
How much time is that? Does it really end up being like $5 an hour? Like what do you actually think if you're a master right now? Like what do you honestly think is like a realistic dollar per hour figure of the current cost of Spark that you could like just a ballpark? Have you tried to figure that out? I'm curious.
I haven't recently, and I don't think I can give an accurate number. I'll get some papers going and I'll write something up in a moment as we go on.
Okay.
But, I heard like TML saying in your last podcast here that when he jumps into a game, he's ready to throw some money in just to level himself up because he doesn't have the time. And he said that specifically. And when I heard it, I was just like, that makes sense. I've done that too. And it kind of makes sense here with the Spark. When you come in and you see that Spark, there's reasons kind of why you want to grab it now. You might not have time to do any hunting. So when it does come down to it, I think the value of maybe the Spark per hour that you can earn might be a number here. But when you realize that this item can never go away, it's kind of year after year creating this compound feel where, wow, the time that I invested, my time that I put into it a year ago is now, creating this for me. So it's huge.
Yeah, and so a lot of people out there may not have like a lot of money to invest in this game, but the time you spend treasure hunting could very well turn out to be like, this can make you money in the future when it comes to manufacturing cars, manufacturing decor shops. Like, I think these decor shops are going to be a massive branding and marketing opportunity for brands to come in the game. I think I was talking with, I think my Ben 68 podcast, where people in his community are like going after all the McDonald's in Upland. And like maybe they're going to get an outdoor decor shop to produce golden arches and put those on all the McDonald's. You could actually sell that maybe to the marketing team at McDonald's. And it's going to require, get this in your head, it's going to require Spark to manufacture marketing pieces in Upland. Marketing is a huge piece of our current, capitalistic economy. It's marketing, and many brands will see Upland and other metaverses as simply a marketing opportunity for them.
Yep. And when it comes down to Spark, it will be the core root of our Upland metaverse here to do those things. If you need to make a billboard, because that might be something someone made, hypothetically, you're going to need Spark to build it. Maybe they do it or you do it, but someone's paying for that Spark and their time to do it. And yeah, the other wicked cool thing with the Spark right now is you can rent it out. So if you don't want to build for yourself, you could put it on somebody else's through an agreed upon agreement, and you get paid for it with UPX. So now that I'm treasure hunting and I'm gathering UPX for my rented Spark, I can even buy another property for my web and kind of compound it as it's growing, build some more Spark, and then add more at any time to the build to start increasing my pay more. And it just creates this kind of this growing snowball that just is this wonderful UPX Spark ball that's rolling with the wave that's created.
Yeah, can you quickly explain for those who may not know what the concept of a web is with treasure hunting?
Yeah, so a web is a concept where you're conserving sends to maximize the amount of Spark you can get. When we treasure hunt standard treasure hunts are specific to yourself, and you're not competing against anybody else. You have a 5-minute clock. And so a web is this concept where you purchase property in different locations on the map, so that when you send to your property, you're not wasting the airplane to get there. You can go there and gain some intel with the arrow for free. And so now I'm up in the northwest corner and I know, okay, the arrow is now pointing to the east, so I got to head this way a little bit. But I traveled for free, didn't spend any UPX, didn't spend any airplane. Yep. And so as you add these properties to your web, you're now able to go check that location or that point in the map and get that intel that you need to continue going. And so building a web is pretty important when you're doing a standard hunt to maximize saving sends and UPX, because in this way you just spread out and you don't even have to send to a property and pay someone to go there. Ideally, if you have a perfect web, you'll never hit your city limit of 80 sends. You could just hunt all day, every day, because you'll never
if you had a dense enough web, you could in theory use 1 send or no send every time you're collecting a treasure.
Yeah, correct. I had a really dense web in Chicago, and I was spending about 1 send. I had 2,000 properties, and I was sending 1 send just to get to it, which was very, very, very good statistically. But you go to some of these small cities like Rutherford, Santa Clara, and you notice that not that many props can get you a pretty lucrative float, we'd call it. So you'd send to your property, and then you'd float towards the chest and eventually get it. You maximizing it. That's the way to do it, honestly, is the web. So that's what a web would be, is to maximize Spark while saving sends and UPX.
So Rutherford has been my preferred city for treasure hunting. And I know it's not a tier 1 or tier 2, but simply because it's very small. And it's just, I feel like, I know you can't. So the Spark you can earn, explain how much Spark you can earn in a Spark chest depending on the tier of the city.
Sure. So there's 2 prizes that you can get right now. It's 0.01, which is the lowest denomination, and then 0.02.
Yep.
And that's the second denomination. So all tier 1s and tier 2s get this 0.02, and everything else gets the 0.01. So in Rutherford as a tier 4, you'd be getting 0.01 per chest.
Yeah.
But like you
That's just one I happen to have a really good web. It's so small, and I just feel like compared to Chicago, I can go 2 to 3 times as fast.
Yep.
So from my personal min-max of my time, I decided that was a better use of my time because I felt like I could get 2 or 3 chests for every one I was getting in Chicago, and I'm never really spending enough time to max out my sends because I'm using 0 or 1 every time I collected a treasure chest, maybe 2 if I suck,
Or if
I like to compare.
rushed.
I'm not sure if you saw my stream, but I like to compare treasure hunting to golf.
Okay.
And it's like how fast the ticker is. It's like if it's really slow, it's like, all right, pulling out my driver, going long here. And when it gets really, really fast, it's like, okay, chipping it or putting it. Like how, and it's
I love
like,
that.
so it's just fun. I have fun with it that way, but I definitely don't spend a lot of time. I'm curious though, do you and other people debate like what you feel is by far currently the best city to treasure hunt in from a size standpoint to earnings potential?
Yeah, we make charts. We have like a standings in a way that
Okay.
the community kind of understands. When we look at it for a brand new beginner player, a small city is helpful because you can float when you're trying to maximize UPX and you're going from your property to the next one. If it's that far away, you're not going to get it in the 5 minutes. But if you're here, you might be able to float to it and then come back and start another treasure and go again and slowly start building. So when we talk about best cities right now, I think the best city for treasure hunting is Santa Clara. That's a personal opinion. I think it's Santa Clara because the size is similar to a Rutherford where you can float to a lot of your
it's small. It's a smaller city.
And it's a wicked small city. And it's also a tier 2. And tier 2s, if you don't remember, share that tier 1 rewards.
So 0.02 spark instead of 0.01 for every.
Exactly.
Every
so now I'm doubling the amount of spark I get while it's also small. It's a little bit more expensive floor price than some of the other small cities, but it's similar in a way to a Rutherford. And when you get in there and you're a new player with one property, it feels very strange, but you'll notice really quickly how small the city is, that you really don't need that many to build a great web in a small city.
I think you might be converting me, man, to switch my strategy to Santa Clara. And I have a pretty big web in Santa Clara. I may need to trade with players because when I went in and purchased Santa Clara, and a lot of players do this, I buy in like really dense blobs in each neighborhood.
Yep.
So I have like whole blocks instead of like spread. But a lot of players are reaching out to other players and saying, hey, let's just trade. Like this is a property in the same neighborhood, the same collection. How about we just trade to make your web better and my web better? And it's like seen as it's a win-win situation. You're helping each other out. There's nothing unique about that given property. Some people care about if the street view's nicer or something like that. Mm-hmm. But if you're really trying to maximize treasure hunting, be willing to like take a hit on maybe you're giving someone the original mint price of yours is like 2,000 UPX higher, but you're willing to make that trade to improve your web so you don't have to buy one on the secondary market and, for double what they minted it for or something like that. So that's another thing where I think networking can come into play, right?
Absolutely. There was a plan for us at MetaMaps to get a map together to show, one user and another user's properties overlaid to each other. So you can decide, hey, man, Loyal, you got a ton of props down here in one stretch, and I have a ton of props up here in one stretch, but I see that you don't have it. Can we initiate a trade to do so? And I think you brought up a really good point with taking the extra couple thousand UPX risk of, hey, maybe your prop's a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller than mine, but really the benefit would be the long-term, like I'll take the hit now of losing 2,000 UPX to now have an extra web to an extra part of the web to start sending around to.
Yeah, so and 2,000 UPX is nothing when you're earning treasure that's worth, I think I figured 0.01 UPX is still $6 worth of UPX.
0.01 Spark is about 6. Yeah. Yes.
So it's about, or sorry, $6 worth of Spark. So if you get 0.01 Spark, or in Santa Clara, if you're getting 0.02 Spark every time you find a treasure chest, that's literally $12 worth of Spark.
Yeah.
And some people are finding, 3-4 of these a day if they go hardcore enough?
Yep. Yeah, we're finding people find 10, stuff like that. So when you're pulling 10 Spark chests a day like that, it's pretty impressive.
So that's 0.2 Spark a day. Some people are pulling.
Yep.
Dude, that is crazy.
That is
crazy.
Yeah, when you have the time to sit there and be able to grind it out, it can be very lucrative. The hard part is it's a grind. So if you're able to find that perfect balance to not overdo it, not underdo it, so you're maybe not getting what you should, but find that perfect medium of doing it. And that's why I recommend maybe at least one a night if you're feeling too stressed out about it. Pop in once a little bit.
I think it's safe to say your average person out there is wasting at least an hour a day on social media or watching TV shows. I think treasure hunting can be very decompressing from your long day. It can be relaxing. It can be cathartic. Like, especially if you build a web, you don't have to be super intense about it. Like, if you oversend to one of your properties, you're just sending, it's okay. You're not losing any money sending to your own properties. Yep. So if you build a good enough web, you can you could be listening to a podcast. You could be listening to this podcast right now. In fact, I know, please comment below right now if you're treasure hunting while listening to this, because I know there's probably at least
and if they're
10,
not,
20 people out there doing it. And if you're not, you don't need to see our pretty faces. I mean, I know they're good, but why not be earning money while listening to this podcast, Go for it, right?
It's the truth. When we have the Upland Show every Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. Central or 10 p.m. Eastern time in the Upland Cafe, it's a perfect opportunity to sit there on mute. There's no conversation that you're going to be a part of. You're just taking in information, and it's not visual.
You're just hearing the news.
So yeah, it's like listening to the radio or the news. And so I can just sit there on my phone and do my hunts and enjoy the Upland content while doing hunting. It's like this perfect concoction of,
and if you need to chime in, you still can, right?
Yeah.
You still can just take a break from treasure hunting and chime in. So.
Yeah, it's nice. I think treasure hunting is one of those things that, like I mentioned earlier, it's just very difficult to get into if you don't know what's going on. But with the right people that you could talk to and the skills that you learn from them it'll just completely change your game. If you don't go out there and just introduce yourself politely and say, hey, I don't want to be rude or anything, but I know that you're a good treasure hunter. I see you on the board all the time. Is there any tip that you can give me? I don't even understand what the arrows are. And I bet you the person would say, hey, thanks for the really polite response or, inquiry. Here, use this YouTube video that I used, or take a look at this MG video from 2020 that is gold. And without watching it, we might not be here today.
Yeah. I'm curious, have you personally developed any content on YouTube that we could share?
Yeah.
Or maybe you and I could jump on another stream like this later. We could even do it today if you want to share your screen. But we could release some bonus content or something to walk people through some tips.
We will have to. I'll have to go back and find them again. The last time I did content was probably February or March, right after the UPX Spark Exchange kicked off, and my time was dedicated.
If you want to send me some links, I'm happy to put them in the description of this video on YouTube, and share that out with people.
Yeah, sure. There's going to be some good tips down there. Cool. I'll give you a couple of them that I have up there that I know that I got. Great.
That's perfect. So speaking of Spark and the value of Spark, you and your group, the UPX Spark Exchange, this is like a side business pretty much that you've built, and you guys were in the Genesis Week hackathon.
Yep.
And I believe were the Player's Choice Award.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Meaning players at the event voted for your Spark Exchange to be the project. So tell us about what the Spark Exchange is, and as well as MetaMaps is part of that. Can you explain everything you're involved with, from building tools for Upland players?
Yeah, for sure. So UPX Spark Exchange came out in February after myself and two other partners got together. We decided that it was time for an easier way for people to connect builders with stakers. And so through the blockchain technology and how public it is, we were able to decipher and make up our own algorithms and website codes to display this for folk. When someone comes onto the page and Uplander looks at, oh, where can I go to rent my Spark? And they see an address and start going. It became very seamless and very, in a way, needed for the community. We used to go to the Discord channels and try to find someone and then negotiate a price, as well as, payment terms, how we were going to get paid out, who was going to take the tax. A lot of different things were occurring. And we saw this void and we said, we need it. As a treasure hunter with MetaMaps, when I created that, we said this is almost going to be the natural progression of things to come. People are going to have Spark. We're going to need some way to use it and utilize it. So Stosh, 15x, myself, and Caffeine got together and developed it, and we've been running it. I manage the community in a way with the cash outs, the deposits, as well as just quick small things here and there. Stosh is great with the community as well, back end, and Blake as well, helping with getting the website up, the data, the database, and how we're integrating it, and authentication as well as security to make sure that your assets with us are safe.
Very cool. So are you actually a developer? Do you have a development background? Are you more the marketing side of this project? How are you personally involved?
Yeah, so that's kind of like the funny thing is I don't have a huge development background. I went to college for 2 years for computer science, where I understood the core concept and logic of it.
I mean, that definitely helps, right? Like that.
Yeah, it definitely helps with understanding the logic. But now, 10 years after college and dropping out and not doing anything with it, coming into this space, I fell in love with developing. And so I'm back at the keyboard. I'm back developing tools for Discord to tell people when timers are about to go off for treasures, like, hey, this treasure in Santa Clara is about to go off. That or a heat map to figure out where a send might be found. So some of the developing tools that I started with, I was able to reach out with Stosh, and when Stosh and I connected, and then a few months later, we decided that it was time to go ahead and merge in a way where we decided, let's take our brain power. A lot more about development than me. Let's take what we have with all of it, stir a pot, and then put it out. And, in this space, it can be difficult to find someone that you can trust, but with time and communication, you build that trust with someone and you get that feel. And so Stosh and I, we all just came together and now have this, in my opinion, pretty sweet tool.
Dude, very cool. So where can people learn more about these tools that you offer? Where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, right now, you're already on YouTube. A player can go type in UPX Spark Exchange. That's UPX Spark Exchange. And they can see some fan-made develop videos up here on YouTube talking about where and how to use it. But so of course,
is it a website or is everything through Discord?
Yeah, so this is a website. We have a Discord that helps with the community and answering questions, but we're web-based. It's all on the website. They sign in, they make a small account using their email, and they link their Upland account to that. So as they make decisions in the game, we can track it and who's using it. So it's a website. Yeah, the web, we can pin the web. Hopefully you can get that down in the link.
Yeah, I can get that as well. What's the URL for that?
Yeah, it's UPX-Spark.exchange.
Okay. So it's a .exchange website.
Yeah.
URL. Okay, that's cool. That works.
Yeah, it's very sweet. We love it. There's so much to it, and I always get so excited and giddy about it because it's such this beautiful hive mind of people that came together. Myself, Blake, and Stosh, and it's wonderful. I know we have actually.
So is it all free tools currently, or is there like premium monthly payments for certain features?
Yeah, so right now the UPX Spark Exchange is free to use. Bank accounts with us are free, and players can withdraw and deposit. They have to just take the Upland tax that is occurred during the transaction. We don't really do anything there. Now, when we go to the MetaMap side of it, where we have a premium service that allows timers to go off and allows sends to be told where close to your properties. These tools that I developed long ago to help save time. When I was looking at my timer to look, I'm waiting for Santa Clara to pop up with a limited, and I got to go, make hot dogs, maybe take the dog out for a walk. I can't be waiting for this timer to go off.
Just spending
So,
time staring at your phone, like.
so we developed the tool to save people time by sending them the alert. Hey, it's about to come off if you're ready to go hunting.
So
I
is
could be
this a Discord bot that will send you a DM or something like that of when?
That's correct. Right
off?
now, it's a Discord bot. We have Stosh with us as a guest in the background. We're currently working on something new and, in a way, revolutionary to the space, which I think is pretty sweet. Again,
Okay.
Stosh, I know you're in the lobby chilling. I don't want to beg you too much. I know you might be busy with developing it as we speak, but yeah, we're working to move past Discord a little bit. We're looking to do iOS and Android application with the
like
MetaMap
companion app or something like that.
Yeah, we want an app that you can get. When you get notifications on Discord all day, you can't decipher, was that a timer alert or was that just a random spam that everyone added me?
Yeah.
So
dude, I'm not gonna lie to you, I get so many, especially like having the show, like some of the community things I've done. Like I had a node where I was giving away properties for only 8,000 UPX if someone built another property. Like I just get so bombarded with Discord that Discord's amazing, but unless you're like a perfectionist with managing your notifications, or maybe if you're only joining like 2 groups, like this is all I want to be involved in.
Yep.
But other than that, it can get pretty overwhelming for people with all the notifications.
Absolutely. And that's where our big step was. We said, let's go to our own app where we push the notification to you.
Notifications.
You customize it. If you want it on the banner on your iPhone at the top, if you want it to vibrate, if you want it to make an alert, that's all settings on your phone. So we're really breaking the boundary there and allowing, again, a layer 2 to come into the space and exist with Upland and our app, and they work. It's perfect. So
what are the fees for the premium features that you currently have?
Yeah. So right now we're restructuring the payment system. We're going to add in the Find Nearby Send tool. Finding a send nearby your property saves a ton of time when you're looking for sends. I can go from 0 to 8 sends in under a minute. That's how fast I can gather sends with the tool. So we don't have a pricing structure yet. Our last structure was 5,000 UPX and 5,000 UPX.
So people can actually pay an UPX
in a way.
They don't have to pay.
It's really
USD
a use credit
to the site.
It's the use credit, actually, Doyle. I think I'm going to correct myself there because that's not necessarily true. It's not UPX that they're using. They're using the UPX Spark Exchange credit from their bank balance. So it's not that they're spending in-game UPX to do so. They're spending the on our website credit system to buy the product that you can get, that you can populate with UPX through earning. See, again, this is where the logic is confusing because you're earning our Spark credit, our UPX Spark Exchange credit when you're renting your Spark.
When you rent out Spark.
Yeah, so they're using their bank balance to purchase these premium services through us. And back before this merge, it was 5,000 credit and 5,000 credit for both of them separate. And now we're working to merge them together and bring cost savings down to hit a broader market. Right now we have
just one fee for both services for the month.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Very
cool. We have an internal baking system to manage and track all users and security authentications and such in place. So the system's pretty sweet. But yeah.
So if people aren't renting out Spark, can they still get a membership to the service?
Absolutely. Yep. If they're not renting out their Spark, they can still find a way to get membership through the service. We'll have instructions on that on the app when it's live in a couple weeks here. So they'll see some more details about that, and I'll have to jump on the show again and talk a little bit more about the MetaMap.
We'll gladly
go
have
through
you
some
back
treasure
on
hunting and stuff like that as well.
Review the website and see a little more
absolutely
of what's going on. I'd actually love to have Stosh on. Maybe we could have Stosh on and he can explain some of the more technical aspects he's been developing. So that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll reach out. Let's get him in.
Okay, that would be awesome. I did have a question, and I'm sure you would know more than most people. Will Spark ever be able to be sold, like actually instead of rented? So how renting works is your renting your, like, you're going and staking on a property for someone who's building a building, right? You're going and staking Spark on their property, and then they're paying you an UPX fee for you helping build their building faster, right?
Yep.
That's how
Yep.
renting currently works.
That's correct.
Will you ever be able to outright sell, like if I have 15 Spark and I want to sell 5 Spark to you, Mossy, will Upland ever let me transfer my Spark to you and allow you to facilitate actually selling it that way?
Yeah, it's a really great question. Tons of thought into it. My first gut feeling is we don't know. My second top feeling, about 90% of the chance, is no. And the reason why I say that is we've seen things with the development tools where they're saying, we don't really want Spark to be a tradable asset yet. We're still looking into how we can do it and structure it that way.
Yeah.
So at the moment, it's a no. There's still that small 10% chance that we might see it down the road, depending on where it is. But at the moment, I think it's going to be that non-consumable asset that you own.
Yeah. So the team wants it to be account bound, most likely.
Yep.
And I wish there was a way to make it even more, because there's always that fear of like multi-accounting, right? But I think they would be pretty good at catching people. Like if someone has a second account that's always staking Spark on this other guy's account, I mean, in theory, does the game, do the developers of the game ask to verify anything from your site? Do you think they would maybe come to you like, hey, is this guy renting Spark to this other guy? It's because it's not in game that the developers of the game can track if someone's paying to rent this Spark, right?
True. Yeah. So some cases we'll see it's all public on the blockchain where the person's renting their Spark. And the thing about the chain is we don't really know why it happened, but we kind of see what happened. Person A put Spark on person B. That was it.
So this is on the UPX Spark Exchange. You guys have your own blockchain to track.
We have blockchain
your
listeners
transactions
to track the EOS chain. Yeah, so we don't have our own blockchain. We're just listening to the same blockchain that Upland posts to. Yeah, so when someone makes a transaction in Upland, we're reading it. And so, the team could come to us and say, hey, you have any data on this? But at the same time, they have the same data.
Okay.
The only big difference would be if someone paid for it.
Okay, so what they would most likely be looking for if they're curious someone might be multi-accounting is like, okay, if someone is staking a ton of Spark constantly on another player's buildings, are they ever sending UPX to each other? Right? Like that may be something they look for. Yeah. However, there may be cases where like I've got a ton of my family members involved. Literally my dad, my stepdad, my brothers, my mom, like literally everyone. I'm so passionate about it, like everyone I know is playing it just because like they believe in the vision of Upland. I may like stake 5 Spark on my mom's property to help her get her first building and just do that for free, and like, so I think it's definitely a hard job for the Upland developers to track when something's fishy going on, when,
it can be difficult to piece the pieces together, but with any data set, the more information you have, the better you can make a perfect, precise decision and result. So with more time comes refinery. So they're working. I've seen it go from last year where it was very difficult to have an issue get resolved to this year where it's happening instantaneously. And that's huge. When you see an issue arise, hey, I can't buy for for USD or something, or this property's locked up. They do a really good job at getting those resolved because of the information they had in the past, the amount of times they had it. Okay, this is that, go do this. Oh, this is that, we've seen that before, go do this. It's AI learning. It's how humans do it too. So with time and more data set, it gets refined. So at the moment you could say things like it might be difficult, but I do believe Upland is working pretty good to get that done. The multi-account issue is one thing, but funneling assets, stuff like that, it's part of their terms of service. So, they take it seriously.
Rightfully so, if they're building a stable economy, right?
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I've seen is, or one thing that I like, I should say, is that in order to do this sending UPX to each other, they have required the KYC
That's
process.
correct.
And the KYC process, for those who may not know, require you to pretty much identify yourself legally to Upland to say, like, I'm a unique person. Here's my
Yep.
identification, and that way they can track, like, okay, this is a unique person who's playing the game. And
Yeah, exactly.
so that part, I think, is, a lot of people are frustrated with that, but I think there's currently not a better solution to verify if there is multi-accounting going on.
Yeah, I think it's huge. Um, there's a topic there that could be talked about probably for a whole nother episode because
Oh
it's so
yeah.
in depth. But yeah, the KYC, permanent addresses just came out. Our home address, you have to have KYC for that as well, and KYC to send UPX directly from one account to another. That's interesting too because players have to hold the UPX for 60 days. I'm not sure if you've ever tried to transfer funds to someone, but if you don't hold it, you get that bounce back and you go, God, we on the exchange, like we went 60 days. I think it was 55 because I had some funds in my account prior, but we waited 60 days to be able to start transferring and doing withdrawals through the direct deposit. But I will say, I think that as a business perspective is the number one most beneficial thing to have come out in this game so far is that direct transfer system. I do anywhere from 20 to 50 withdrawals a day. And when 99% of them are direct transfer, it is saving me an extraordinary amount of time. Hey, can I buy your burner property? Okay, here it is. Okay, blah, blah, blah. It's just type in their name and send them their funds like they want it. They want it right away.
Yeah.
That direct transfer is amazing. So yes, KYC, know your customer, TILIA verification, like you said, Doyle. But as long as we start doing that and start seeing people across the board feel comfortable with Upland knowing their information, the more they can, again, start tracking things that aren't supposed to go. So
yeah, exactly. So how does could you explain a little more in detail how that works? Like if I want to start renting Spark, currently I've only built buildings for myself.
Okay.
If I want to start renting Spark, what will that process look like, and how much can I earn for renting my Spark?
Yeah. So right now the Spark rate is hovering right around 20 UPX an hour. And so that's for one Spark, you would get paid 20 UPX for every hour that Spark's on a build. 10
Okay.
hours, 200 UPX, and so on. And this concept, so what it looks like to come into the website is you show up to the website and it's a long list of properties that have current construction on them and with a price. And so you're looking at the list and you say, okay, at this address, I see the price is paying 22 UPX an hour. You go down. I see at this address, it's paying 25 UPX an hour. So this one's a little bit better pay rate. And so you look at the address, you type it into your game in Upland, and you'd stake your Spark on it, and that's it. From that moment on, you really don't have to do anything else. When the build's done, your account in our banking system gets automatically credited instantly, and you can do with it as you please. And so the communication between the two people is now nearly eliminated to a point where it's almost automated, and that helps us develop the metaverse at the rate they want us to.
I love that. So it's like an Uber service where the driver and the passenger don't even technically have to say a word to each other.
Exactly.
But they're both going to this centralized platform that allows them to interact and both create a win-win situation. I want to rent my Spark, or I want to have someone build on my property, and I'm willing to pay them some UPX. Like if you're, especially for, I'm probably definitely going to come use your service when my landmark property gets released. So I have a landmark in Oakland. I have
OTV.
Yoshi's. It's like a famous concert venue.
Okay. Yep.
And I don't even know how much Spark it's going to take to build that thing, but when it's ready, I'm going to want to get that thing built quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay a premium, 30 UPX an hour.
It is.
and
It is in a way a
get everyone
premium.
there to stake some Spark on it, get it built in a few days, hopefully.
The fun part about building there, so that was staking it, but to build there, it's like buying on Amazon or buying on a website. I mean, it is a couple clicks and it lists your project, and then you look at it 10 minutes later. And if the build rate was high enough, it's full. People are already staking on it, getting it done. And if the build
Wow.
rate's low enough, not a lot of people want to stake on it. It might take a lot longer, but it feels like you're online, picking what you want and putting it in your cart and then hitting confirm. It's cool.
So is it essentially like an escrow account that holds the UPX? Do people have to prepay for how many hours they can get staked on it? And
That's right.
how do you make sure there's no, like, they didn't actually give enough, put
Yep.
enough UPX in their account, and then someone stakes too much Spark and they're not good for that money? How do you prevent
That's
that
the
from
benefit of
happening?
paying up front. And we limit the user based on their bank account. You know, they can't post something because the bank account doesn't show it. So when a user pays up front for the price of the full build, it sits in the escrow, and that escrow is me. And so for right now, it's me, and it's a trusted entity. And so this escrow system is somebody that's open, public, and willing to talk about it. That's also trusted. So
Okay.
when we talk about that centralized place that you can go to, like Uber, it's because both parties trust Uber to get the job done.
So right now, let's say my Yoshi property gets released tomorrow that I could build my landmark on. I can go to your website. I can say I want to get this thing built, and let's just say how much do you think it might be for these massive buildings? Like it could be like 200,000 UPX or something like that.
Yeah, we're seeing the big medium factory right now at the current rate is 420,000 UPX to build.
Okay. So I may have to send you 500,000 UPX.
Yeah.
You're going to hold that in your
Yep.
account, and then you're going to distribute it to all the people that helped
Exactly.
build.
Yep.
Do you guys have like a minimum amount staked to prevent it from doing a ton of microtransactions? Because that just becomes your time. Like if you had 100 people only put 0.01 on my property, you're gonna have to go send like 1,000 UPX to each of these people or something like that, right?
That's correct. And that's where our use credit system comes into play. So the use credit system is going to allow us to send small portions out to each individual person on our website. If you stake 0.01 and you only get 25 UPX and there was 100 people, well, we're going to send their bank account that much. And then we're going to limit people to cash out until they have 3,000 UPX use credit. So when they have 3,000 use credits, then they can come to me and say, hey, Moss, I'd like to change this in. Can you send me over some UPX in the game? And I send it right over in the game.
Okay. So kind of like a Venmo balance, if people are familiar with that, or like PayPal.
Yes.
There's this account that keeps track of it on your website. Is that correct? And then
Yep,
you can
just
see
like
your
Julia.
balance. Okay,
Yeah.
so that, and then it's like, okay, I'm ready to get this. Like with Venmo is an app I use a lot to send money to, like, what I keep talking about
Venmo's
golf.
great.
I went
Yeah.
golfing this morning. So
Nice.
when me and my friends go golfing together, 4 of us, like one person pays, and then we all just Venmo each other our $20 or whatever for the green fees. And so it works similar to that. Like, and then that balance can sit in that my friend's account, and he may not take the money out and send it back to his actual Chase bank account
Correct.
until he's like wanting to use it. So he can just leave it in Venmo and then even send it to other people, right? So it's like this account
Yep.
that keeps track of it. Okay, so and is that all backed by a tool that's crawling the blockchain to verify everything that's going on?
We have the blockchain imported. So right now, if I wanted to run a quick check on the blockchain, it would typically take about 5 weeks for anyone to get a response back. That's how long the chain is. Millions of transactions. We have it stored in a system, in a database. So within 5 seconds, I can get that information back. So
I was looking recently on DApp Radar. There's 7 million transactions. There was 7 million transactions like last month,
Yeah.
in Upland. 7
Yeah.
million in 1 month.
There's a lot that we have to
That the
keep track of.
blockchain has to store all of those.
Yep. And so that's where the
transactions.
benefit is of us sitting down and actually saying, let's get it stored. It takes a lot of money to store it on the cloud because it's a lot of data, but we can then make inquiries instantly. If I wanted to check Loyal Doyle's first send in the game, I can find it. That's so cool. We can make a video about it. Hey, here he is walking around finding his first few props or something like that.
That is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's 357 million total transactions at the moment. So it takes.
That's the total transactions since Upland was created that have happened.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at.
Explain everything that counts as a transaction.
Sure. So send to a property that you don't own is a transaction. A property you put up for sale is a transaction. A property you purchase is a transaction. Every time you stake Spark on a build is a transaction. When a building completes is a transaction. So there's these small different things that you do. You might notice it in game as the two-factor authentication. When you go to list a property for sale, it says, hey, you sure you want to do this? We're about to go post the blockchain. We're going to put this transaction out there. So a lot of those are trans. And that's between four different EOS accounts that Upland has. They have the Play Upland account, which is like the main one. They got the community pool. They got the NFT assets. So there's all these different
crazy
ways that the game is created. Yeah. Beautiful game. It's just insane how it works, and we get to create on top of it. Mind blowing.
So cool. So man, I didn't realize that just listing a property for sale would count as so does that mean even delisting a property for sale is a transaction? Like pretty much everything you do counts as a transaction. That's crazy, and it's all on the blockchain.
Yeah. And that's where it gets nuts. We talk about city days. Like for us on our website, something that we have to deal with at the moment is when a city is released, the amount of transactions that come through the system is extraordinary. And it's not just buying a property. It's also the sends around the property. It's also the people who are instantly listing the properties for sale. All of those transactions together create this giant long list that the blockchain has to read one at a time. And so as we're trying to take in that information, we're reading it delayed because we can't hit the new stuff yet. We're still kind of reading the old stuff. So the data is all accurate. We get DMs all the time, and anyone listening, if you see this ever in your bank account during city releases, it's because of that. It's the delayed transaction time. And of course, if there's other issues, feel free to reach out at any time in the Discords or message me directly or any of the partners. But this delay in transactions is incredible to watch. It just stacks up and gets bigger and bigger. And the more cities that come out that people are interested in, it gets pretty big. And, Upland just had an announcement that they hit the most transactions per second, which is extraordinary. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, and I
think it was over 70 a second, 5,000 in a minute with the Porto release.
It's insanely beautiful. And for any game that's trying to get recognition, having good stats and numbers is one way to do it. I mean, who wouldn't want to say they're the best in the league because they have the stats to prove it?
I don't think that's something that's sunk into people's heads yet. Like especially mainstream talk of NFTs. One of the biggest projects in recent history was NBA Top Shot. It kind of had a falling out a little bit, like it doesn't have quite as much hype anymore, but I'm sure there's still a massive community that's like long-term vision of NBA Top Shots, which are clips of NBA moments like Steph Curry hitting a half-court shot, and you can be one of like, I don't know, that's something that's weird to me is they do like 40,000 sometimes of like one moment. So you can be one of 40,000 people who own that clip, and there's like millions of clips. So like that, it gets pretty saturated, but I guess so is like the basketball cards. Like there's millions of cards, and some of them gain more value over time. But it's curious to me. I've tried to participate in quite a few NBA Top Shot launches, which is pretty much you can compare to a city release that happens in Upland. Some people complain Upland, like we had Brooklyn, which was a horrible release where there was a lot of bugs and issues, you have got to give it to the Upland team, who's literally building a rocket ship mid-flight flying to the moon. Like, literally,
Mid-flight.
people do not realize this is not you cannot compare it to a video game on Xbox or a video game on PlayStation where there's just servers running it. Like, every transaction has to be tracked on the blockchain, while 5,000 transactions are happening simultaneously every minute during a city release. And we had 35,000 or so properties in Porto that pretty much sold out completely in like 30 minutes or so. Or I don't know the exact stats. But other than the FSA properties, like, imagine the amount of transactions. And
It's nuts.
I just think more people need to tip their hat to what Upland has truly done amazing. People complain about graphics. People complain about, but you have to see the technology for what it actually is. And it's an asset system that is tracking all these transactions in a beautiful way for other developers to come in and build these beautiful games on top of it. But the point is, Upland is building a platform that allows people like your team, the UPX Exchange, Spark Exchange, to build really beautiful tools. And you couldn't do it without the Upland team who made all this data and blockchain data possible, right?
Oh yeah, they have a cocktail, a beautiful concoction, and it has to work one way or it won't work. And we've seen them do city releases, but I like what you said, how we got to give it to them. It's looking pretty good, and it's new. I mean, it's just new technology. When I say that, it's writing to the blockchain consistently, making sure everything's right, people's assets and livelihoods, and not being able to trade it back because you're writing it to the chain. It's pretty impressive. I saw your video a couple weeks ago, I think it was on DAP Radar, about the number of users between Decentraland, Sandbox, and some of the other big names, and as well as Upland, and how you had looked at maybe the user count, daily active users, and transaction log. And again, I walked into it knowing Upland was going to do well because of what I know in the space, but it is great to see the numbers. I mean, yeah, there could be a certain number of people out in Decentraland, but there's just not this many.
Yeah, dude, there was only like over a 30-day period. There was, if I remember off the top of my head, I'll get pretty close, 500 users in 30 days in Decentraland with less than like 10,000 transactions the entire 30-day period.
Damn.
And then it was close to 10,000 monthly active users in Sandbox with like 20,000 or so transactions, under 100,000. And then you had Upland with 200,000 active users, which, remember, is like 10 times the transactions of just the other games. Just the users in Upland. Yep. 200,000, over 200,000 in a month, with close to 8 million transactions in a 30-day period.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
It's crazy. You can't even compare the two. They're two leagues of their own. And I think the moment we realize it, I mean, there's like you said, the transactions. It's like playing in high school. You know, in high school, you might have had 500 kids in your high school. And, oh, cool, he does the art. Oh, cool, he plays the basketballs. Okay, that's cool. But when you come to something like Upland, and it's not a high school, and there's all these different pockets. If you want to go find a community doing this, if you want to go find a community that loves basketball, that loves music, that loves whatever the topic could be, there's probably already a community going for it. And if there's not, there's no reason why you can't start it. You hit something that you enjoy. I bet you there's another human out there that enjoys it too. Now you start growing this community. It's nuts. Upland's very thankful to have that availability to just do what you need and want. There's no limit to who can join.
Yeah, and in my opinion, Upland is creating the platform. And some people will hate me for this comment, but there's going to be haters out there. But Upland's creating the platform that games like Decentraland and Sandbox should be built on top of Upland, right? Like,
Yeah,
They
that's
don't even need
interesting.
to
I'll
be
have to
their
think about that.
standalone game. Like you could enter Sandbox or you could enter Decentraland through Upland's metaverse and platform. Like you could go, those games could be like entering an amusement park.
Yep.
So someone could own a large property in Upland where you go and enter this, and like it's like an amusement park, and that amusement park is called Sandbox.
Yeah.
Where you can go and have these VR experiences and hang out with friends, but it's just a game. What Upland is every single property could be a different game. Every single property could be a different use case. We're going to soon have apartments where you can go inside my apartment in Oakland right now, is my home address in Glenview, and I could have all of my favorite NFTs hung up on the wall, and you can like experience the things I'm passionate about.
Yep.
But then you're also going to have experiences where like you enter a football stadium in the game and you play like a football mini game. Like it's going to just keep going from here. And if developers understand this, like build your freaking game on Upland. Build your blockchain game on Upland. Like they've given you, they're doing all the back end work. You don't have to worry about currency for your game. You don't have to worry about anything. Just build your fun game and use Upland's economy to develop it. Or like you guys, build a service that is beneficial to players. Like that is the call right now, right? Like that's the call. Come and build something
absolutely
on Upland and use your imagination to do anything. Like it's the sky's the limit right now.
Yeah, there's two things. One is the creator economy, which you're talking about. It's this concept of the creators, the ones who will make the economy. Anybody that can come and bring value, either it's their own artwork or it's what they're passionate in, or even if it's talking about a specific topic. Like the Upland debate channel is another great example. People go in there just to debate about random things because they like to debate. That's the type of person they are. That is content that's created. So the creative economy is, I think, what we're calling it in the near future, is going to be massive. And anybody that can think they can do anything will want to jump in. Yep. And the other fun part is we are all creative. I think I've changed the word art in my head and creative to not just pencil and paper, but to nearly a lot of different things. To the way people speak or debate, like I was just talking about, is art, where you fine tune who you are based on your environment and your interactions and stuff.
Yep.
And genetics. But when you can create just almost out of nothing this economy, it's massive. And so Upland, when my second point was how cool it was that you talked about Decentraland and Sandbox virtually just could have been built on top of Upland. And I don't think I've thought of that before, but in a way, yeah, you're right. Upland, they're burying themselves and they're digging their roots deep to become that platform, that underlying place that you can go. When I started thinking of the concept of, what do you mean you can put a software on my property? What do you mean I can go to a website by clicking this? It was very difficult at first, but then you start sleeping on it. You start thinking of it. You're like, well, yeah, I guess it's not much different than this. It just explodes with this creativity that what we can do. And the more we talk about it, the more concepts are out there. I don't know anything about fishing, but I have a buddy that loves it. And so for a whole day, we just sat down and talked about it so I can kind of get a grasp on it. And now I have this cool concept of a go fishing game that we could whip up and send out to allow folk to go fishing in a tournament style game here in Upland. And those can't get created without talking and networking to somebody. So bringing it, yeah, networking is huge, man. It's got to be one of the most important things to do in this space, is to feel comfortable enough with who you are to introduce yourself to somebody else and say, this is the benefit I can bring to the space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love this idea you mentioned of like creativity being manifest different in different types of people. Some people, it's very obvious. They create music that's beautiful and artistic, or they create art. Like a lot of NFT projects are just art that's very beautiful and cool, and you love that design. But some people, and I like to put myself in this bucket, like I just love creating like theory, and I think that's why the Like my brain loves to theorize things in a creative way. And I think in some aspects, I hate to like self-classify myself, but like
Let's see it.
I do see myself in some ways, and I don't want to overstep what I actually am because I'm an idiot. But uh, as as like a as like a visionary for
Yeah.
Web3 and Metaverse, like it makes so much sense to me, and it's becoming the more I spend time, and I've already been doing it for like well over a year. I've been involved in
Yeah.
Upland, probably coming up on 2 years, and it's like there is so much possibility here that I didn't even imagine uh, when I first started playing. Like, and it just keeps getting deeper.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend people get involved in networking, theorizing. Ideation is like the key of the future of the metaverse. Like, use your imagination and come up with anything that you think could be a cool idea. Do not hold it all to the vest. Don't think that you're the only one with an idea and you better like this goes back to my entrepreneurship degree that I studied in college. Is actually all that I studied. It was almost like a community college.
Okay.
I didn't focus on all the general classes.
Yeah.
I just spent 2 years doing just the business entrepreneurship classes
Oh,
because
that's
that's what I wanted to do.
Yep.
So I have an associate's degree in entrepreneurship. I didn't think I needed all that, but to me, it's a bachelor's degree because it is a bachelor's degree minus the general classes.
Okay.
So I can study philosophy by watching YouTube videos and things like that. But I just highly encourage people because one of the key things I learned in this entrepreneurship course is an idea is worth nothing. Just because you have a cool idea, you don't deserve any money. You don't deserve anything amazing until you execute, until you work on that idea and actually build something with it. So what I'm telling the community is don't be scared. Like, yeah, if you don't want to share it with everyone, find one person you trust and bounce this idea off them.
Yep.
And it will evolve. And I think that's something beautiful that your team has done is you've got a group of people that you trust and are visionaries together with this idea, and you're meeting on it, you're talking ideas, and I'm sure this idea of just the UPX Spark Exchange has changed hundreds of times over the past month of like what you could do with it, where it can go, how do we improve it.
Always
and
evolving.
You have to do that. The original idea, I'm sure, was cool, but I'm sure it's evolved a ton.
Oh yeah.
Is that safe to assume?
Yeah, it's evolved a decent amount, but I think we have a lot more to go. So I can't say it's evolved a lot when I know there's still more to come. So
yeah,
we're in stages, but the daydreaming, I think you're right with visionary. I simplified it to just a daydreamer word where I like to say that I'm daydreaming.
Yeah.
And we are, because we see it right there. Like a daydream is when you're awake and you're aware, but you feel and see what you're experiencing. And that's what we're doing here when you're innovating.
Yeah.
And I agree, man. Reach out. If anybody listening right now doesn't know maybe where to step to or who or what to do, it's always safe to reach out without disclosing a lot of information and say, hey, I have an idea, and then start slowly letting some more of the information go. There's no reason to share the whole project or anything.
Yeah, like I have this concept of something we could do with the metaverse. Do you think this would work? And you don't have to give all the details of that thing if you're worried you want to like
exactly
keep
that
it
intellectual
safe.
property is yours.
I still think, man, find somebody you trust that you can just give it all to.
Yep. Yeah. It's been fun when you can do that. I know Stosh and I, when we sat down and it was time that we were just going back, like sharing code and looking at each other like, yeek, it creates that great sense of brotherhood or familyhood, I'll say, in a way where you're related beyond just why you want to hang out or something like that. Now we're deep coded in a way together where we share these passionate ideas and we're both on the same page. No one's on a separate page.
Yeah.
I think that's also one of the biggest reasons why our team is successful is the fact that we're all on the same page together. And if something comes up or if there's an issue or a concern, we reach out to the other two and we say, hey, we got to get together and come up with a decision making skill right here now, a decision.
Yep.
So
And if you're really worried about it, there's even tools online like, I don't know, this isn't
Fiverr.
paid promotion, but I think there's tools like LegalZoom where you can get like
Oh, okay.
really low cost like lawyer help to write up an NDA. So you can like even see if someone's willing to sign an NDA, so they're not going to disclose it. But the point is like start talk whatever it takes for you to start talking about this and working towards something. Like I really look up to you and your team for being one of the first groups to like, let's do this thing. Let's create something to help the community, because there is this attitude that I've seen a lot in Upland in the Discord of like everybody wanting Upland to wanting the developers to do everything for us. Like, give us everything we want.
Upland should. That's what I hear a lot. Upland should.
Upland should do this.
Yeah.
It's like,
and so I always snap back.
How about you do that?
Yeah.
And Upland will like support you. Like, work with Martin. I'm sure you work closely with Martin, right? Who's over third-party development tools.
That's right.
You can reach out to Upland. You can get a meeting with Martin to talk about your idea, and he is the official employee of Upland who he even used to play the game. Martin used to play and decided to end his account, like sell all his properties before he got hired. Or maybe he put it on pause, I'm not sure. But I know employees can't play. So he loved the game so much and saw where it could go, where he said, I'm going to quit playing and I'm going to apply, and I want to help other creators and developers build third-party tools on the Upland platform.
Yeah, we're at a good spot. I know there's a lot to come in the next few months. It's been a hot summer. Everyone's been outside cooking, grilling. It's almost time to get back indoors and hang out by the computer screens and cell phones again, watching Netflix. So we're about to enter an interesting market. I think it will be. Sorry, something just came up. Wife messaged me, I think.
No worries.
But we're in this interesting market right now where we're about to come back indoors. Kids are about to go back to school. New generation is going to now level up in a way and go to a new grade or graduate or even college for the first time. And those concepts are huge for us. We're going to see probably a big amount of folk come in between now and December, as we typically do as school starts and the holidays come around, that it'll be interesting. And if we spread the love and at least the joy of what we're doing here, it'll be important for the new players to kind of conceptualize what we see. You know, they might not come in and see the exact same thing I see. I know I'm a different player than maybe the average, but I was them. I know what they're feeling and looking at in this game. So that following steps and reaching out to certain people that you can trust and that you build that trust with, networking, will create a great experience here. So letting those people know this is going to be huge, because the creator economy is coming, and we're going to be in for a wave of people who can create some amazing things.
Dude, I love that. Can you tell us anything like about what it's like working with the Upland development team on a third-party tool? Are they easy to work with? Do you have meetings often? And what does that look like?
Yeah, so right now it's slow rolling. At the moment, there's a Discord for what they call the Upland Developer Network, kind of like the media group. There's one for developers. You go to their website, upland.me, and you can sign up and register your group to get your Discord account to get added to this group.
Okay.
And so the concept right now is they're building that, which is creating the bridge between us and the actual Upland team. Right now, I think communication is actually pretty solid. You know, the group's not in there sharing their code like, hey, this is what we do. What do you do? It's more of a, let's get some people together so that we have a space to go if we need to ask questions to the team. So we'll see things in there like, hey, this isn't working properly. This property address is wrong. Can you fix it? And the team replying, hey, we're going to get that fixed. Thanks for letting us know.
Wow.
And to see that type of communication is awesome, because we're not sharing code in there. If anything, we're helping them make a better game while helping us make a better experience.
Is there certain things that you are waiting for the team to build that they that they promise you or something? Like if the more you build your vision, they're like, hey, maybe we could offer some resources to build a tool that will help make this third-party tool you're developing even better.
There's probably a few things that would be great. Automation would be wonderful. I think that would probably be the only thing I can think of I would like Upland to do. Most of it, I'll say, no, we're good. Honestly, I don't mind it. But with scalability, automation is going to be key. We have 3,000 bank users right now. And if I'm doing dozens of withdrawals a day, that's a lot of me logging into Upland to send funds. To have an established entity like the UPX Spark Exchange backed by a player who's trusted, can maybe write to the chain on behalf of myself through the code that I wrote personally, would be groundbreaking for the space. It would be massive because folk would no longer need to communicate with me to get their funds out. They can just start utilizing their funds right away and getting their money into their hands, their UPX into their hands to allow them to execute on whatever they had planned to do is great. Because again, when it comes down to time, they're looking at it going, I need this now so I can get this done now. And if they have to wait 12 hours because I'm sleeping, well, that sucks. They're already 12 hours delayed.
Maybe they could create like escrow holding type accounts that are like registered for official third-party developers in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have to go through an individual's account. Like there could be an UPX Spark Exchange, UPX Spark Exchange account, right, that is the holding account for all of the transactions that you develop. And I think
it's funny you nailed that right on the head, man. We just got approved and we just opened it just the other day.
Oh, really?
USE_bank. So it's UPX Spark Exchange as an acronym, USE, and then _bank. And that's our player profile. At the moment, we haven't logged in. We haven't picked a city or anything like that. We just made the account, which with expectation to transition me out as the escrow service, because it should be an entity that me and my partners can access. Right now, my partners can't access my account. My wife has the details in case something were to happen, and she would work with the team to move forward with the funds. But yeah, it's funny that you said that the account is there. So we're so close to making it a possibility. There's just a few more things, and it's that automation trigger that I think we'll probably end up seeing by the end of next year. I bet you for the next year, I'll still be doing manual processes, but that's okay. I built it knowing this was going to be a time consumer to do withdrawals, but there's something fun in giving someone UPX. I mean, It's amazing because they always reply, thanks, I'm going to go buy this thing that I was looking at, and hopefully no one bought it yet. And I'm like, oh, I get giddy. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. What are you looking at? What do you got over there? Looking at other people's plates. So it's a good gig.
So you're truly like hustling. I've got a lot of respect, man, because like I'm sure the payout versus time currently is probably like you have long-term vision with this, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, long-term. And that's where we come in. And again, when you bring it back to networking, one of the big things I used to say was your identity in the digital space is going to be a lot more than you think. When actions that you take today affect the way your children can do things on the internet, will start becoming real. Our parents didn't have the internet. So them playing whatever they were playing or doing whatever they were doing back in the day, or, being offensive, didn't affect me growing up because they went physical to digital. They moved away from the town if they hurt someone's feeling or something like that.
Yeah.
Nowadays with digital stuff, it's stuck there. So you do something digitally, your kids will affect their kids. And I don't know if we even know it yet as a species, just because we don't have any data to back it up on. So my big thing when I came in this space was, no way will I want someone to think I'm untrustworthy, nor do I want someone to think I'm a scam. So my first thought was, how do I tell people who I am? Like, how do I show them who I am? And I just started communication. Open a DM. Hey, I see you're selling this. And I tell them a little bit about myself and why I was interested in the space so that I could grow that relationship. And I'm not going to lie, it was the best thing I think I've ever done. It's networking in this space.
I really look up to the amount of networking you've done, being able to build trust and a community around this like exchange of Spark and people trusting you with their UPX that they're going to get paid. That definitely takes a lot of networking and continuously building that trust. So well done there. And any of you out there, if you want to make some money on your Spark, or if you need Spark to build a building, you know where to go.
We'll get
We
you
got the
guys.
link we got the link below in the description.
That's right.
Anything else you wanna share with us before we close out?
I just want to make sure any listeners right now, hit the subscribe button, like the video if you thought it was nice. We've been here for a little bit talking, but Doyle's doing a great job for our community and our environment. And you got to remember to say thank you. And it's as simple as saying thank you by hitting the like. And if you really want to go a little extra, leave a comment because it's good. I know he replies back to them and looks at them. So thank you.